Good evening, all the participants. Welcome to the day 6 of our knowledge series of CREDA MCHI. Today we have with us Mr. Sunil Nayak. He will be covering today different categories of promoters are there, what are the obligations, how can we withdraw money, and other parts. I'll just give a brief introduction about Sunil sir. He's a chartered accountant. Apart from this, he's also a fellow. Uh, he's also a qualified cost accountant and the associate member of Company Secretaries of India. Presently, he is working as a not working, he's a partner with Thakur Nayak and Dio, and is a full-time RERA advisor. Also, and apart from RERA, they are handling corporate accounts of leading business groups in India and abroad. Core competencies in handling real estate, mega township projects, SRA projects, and commercial and residential developments. Also a financial advisor to high net worth individuals and corporates for structuring the investment portfolio. And also he's also a proficient in income tax, service tax, VAT, and all other direct and indirect laws in India. Talking about his real estate achievements, he was managing partner of Balaji Group Company and Satra. Around 20 years, he was housing project in Bhandup and Munun. He's been part of various township projects. So with this brief introduction, I request Mr. Sunil sir, so please take over and start the session.
Thank you so much. Good evening to all. I welcome all of you to this wonderful session of MCHI. I'm taking a lecture on this concept of a promoter under RERA. I understand that Prabhu sir has already briefed the August audience about RERA as a law, what is the purpose of the law, and how it works in favor of the allottees. So, friends, at the outset, after thanking all the MCHI members for giving this opportunity to me, let me start with the session. So the first slide which comes up is the basic features of the law. This has been covered by Prabhu sir, but still I'll just briefly run through that. It is a law for the whole of India. It is an act of the central government. So the act is defined by the central government, but the states have been given the liberty to notify their own rules and regulations. So under that, Maharashtra has notified its own rules and regulations and set up a Maharera authority. So we call it as a Maharera. This act itself is a central law, so enforcement is done by the center, administration is done by the state government. Going further, the objects of the act have to be understood very carefully because they will give you an insight about exactly what it contemplates, what it intends to do. So it says, first and foremost, this has been taken from the speech of the then Minister for Housing, who had placed the bill on the table of the parliament. So while presenting the bill, what he has referred to in his speech is being referred by me here in this slide. So it says, ensure accountability towards allottees and protect their interests. This industry has been having the curse that this industry is absolutely opaque. There is no transparency. The developer does not give the correct information to the allottees. Allottees have to keep faith in the developer's word, and on the basis of that, they have to go ahead. They had no mechanism of checking what the developer was committing to them. So here, this law is intended to remove that situation. So it infuses transparency, ensures fair play, and reduce frauds and delays. So it is sort of a check on the errant or the negligent or the defaulting developers so that they cannot commit any further frauds or delays on the allottees. Then it says introduce professionalism and pan-India standardization. Here, this may be the first law in the country wherein it is proposed to be implemented by taking the help of professionals. Here, under this law, we have a chartered accountant, we have an engineer, we have an architect, we have an advocate. All of them certify the information for the benefit of the allottees, which means that it is not only the developer himself, but the four professionals along with him who are going to give the information as required by the allottees, which means that there is a professionalism being inculcated here so that the allottees get the correct information. Then it says establish symmetry of information between the promoter and the allottee, which means that the promoter should not use a technical jargon to fool the allottee. There should be information being passed on by the promoter to the allottee in a very homogeneous way so that he understands what the promoter means. To give an example, sellable area, built up area, where the concepts were designed by the promoters, where there was no basis for that. Now, RERA says RERA carpet area, which is a concept which has been defined properly in the RERA Act, and the promoter as well as the allottee can understand the concept in the right manner. So, this law wants to have a symmetry of information between the promoter and the allottee. Then, it is imposing certain responsibilities on both promoter as well as the allottee. The law, though it may feel that it is biased totally in favor of the allottees, is not exactly like that. It imposes certain responsibilities on the allottees also. So the law contemplates that both the promoter and the allottees act in a very decent way with each other so that the projects get completed, the promoter gets his money, and allottee gets the flat. The whole intention of the law is to give the house or the office or the space to the allottee. Then it says establish a regulatory oversight mechanism, which means that now the field is not only between the promoter and the allottee. There is one more player, which is RERA. So RERA is overseeing what exactly is being done by the promoter and the allottee. So there is a mechanism which will enforce the correctness of the contract and make it possible for the allottees to get the delivery of their product in time in a disciplined manner. Then it says establish fast track dispute resolution, because any authority, if it has to enforce the law, it should have the mechanism of resolving the dispute. Here, the dispute mechanism is set properly in place so that any aggrieved party can go to RERA and get his dispute redressed immediately. And at the end of it, because if you see the law, it is saying Real Estate Regulation and Development Act. The first word of regulation is covered in the aforesaid all the objectives. The last thing, which is development. So RERA doesn't only regulate but also develops in such a fashion that there will be good governance in the sector, which in turn would create investor confidence. So it wants the investor to come back to the sector and give a feeling of good fortune for the investor and the allottee so that he gets the delivery what has been promised to him. So this is basically what the RERA law is. This must have been covered by Prabhu sir in detail. I was just touching upon this. Now let me come to my point of discussion, which is the promoter. So who is a promoter? Well, that is what all MCHI members are. All of you are promoters. So promoter means a person who constructs or causes to be constructed an independent building or a building consists of apartments or converts an existing building or a part thereof into apartment for the purpose of selling all or some. So here the law says that somebody who is having an intention to sell becomes the promoter. If there is no intention to sell, if I want to construct a bungalow on my land without any intention to sell it to an outsider, I do not come under the provision of promoter because I don't have anything to sell. The moment I have an intention to sell, I become a promoter, and in turn, all the law of RERA becomes applicable to me. Then, so this is first thing is talking about a typical apartment or a flat or an office scheme. Second is a person who develops land into a project. So the plot development developers who take a land, convert that into smaller plots, and then sell it to an outsider. So again, selling is important. Here, in case I have got the intention to divide my plot into 4 plots for the benefit of my son and my daughter, without any intention to sell it to anybody else. In that case, I do not become a promoter. I only remain the landlord with the intention of family development. So a promoter is somebody who has got the intention to sell. That is most important. You have to, whenever you look at the definition, you look into this issue whether he has the intention to sell or not. Then any development authority or any public body, which means that bodies like MMRDA, MADA, SIDCO, all those also are covered under the provisions of RERA. It is not only you and me who are developers, but the authority also is also governed by the provisions of RERA. Going further, so same thing, whether it is the Cooperative Housing Finance Society, MADA, Primary Cooperative Society, all of them who have got the intention to sell are becoming the promoters. Now, there is the explanation to this. It says, where the person who constructs or converts a building into apartments or develops a plot for sale, and the persons who sells apartments or plots are different persons, both of them shall be deemed to be the promoters, which means if I am the landlord, I give it to a developer, he is going to develop it, I've got some rights to sell, he has got some rights to sell, then both of us are becoming promoters. Initially, when the law came into force, there was a definition of co-promoter, a promoter and a co-promoter. Now that has been removed. Both are made as promoters. So both of us, the landlord as well as the developer, become promoter under the law and will be liable to the extent it has been decided between us. So whatever the functions and responsibilities are laid down between us by way of a contractual obligation will be governed under the Act. Going further, now what are the functions and duties of promoter? So I become a developer because I have the intention to sell. So what I am supposed to do, what I am supposed to not do. So first and foremost is the duty of a promoter to give an advertisement. So any document, if I am going to release for promoting the sale of my product through any medium, whether it is print medium, whether it is visual medium, whether it is social medium, whatever the case may be, or a brochure, what I do, that is termed as advertisement. Here, now in the advertisement, I am required to disclose prominently the website address of the authority, that is Mahara website, and the registration number of the promoter, which means that every promoter who is developing a project is required to specify these two things in his advertisement. Now, giving a case of Piramal. What happened in Piramal case was that in this case, they issued an ad in Times of India covering the first page and the second page. And the website address was not mentioned in that advertisement, and the Mahara number was displayed on the back side in small italics. The chairman of Maharaja took a notice of this and suo moto initiated a penalty proceedings against them, saying that you have not complied with section 11 and because of the default, I am going to penalize. And penalty of 50 lakh rupees was levied on Piramal. So this is a case which has happened in Maharera. So friends, be very careful when you give an advertisement, make it a point so that the advertisement covers these two things which are stipulated by the law. Then, then one more thing, the functions stipulates that the promoter, when he completes the project, he will obtain the completion certificate or the occupancy certificate, which means that the responsibility of the promoter starts with marketing the project and ends with getting the completion certificate. Now in Mumbai or in Thana, all of you must have noticed that we have number of projects wherein there is no OC. The builder has completed the project long back, but the OC is not obtained. There is no CC or there is no completion certificate or occupancy certificate, which means that tomorrow in case the society wants to go for redevelopment, they are handicapped because there is no OC. So to take care of this situation, which may come in the future, RERA has imposed this responsibility on the promoter that once you complete the project, you should get occupancy certificate from the competent authority. Same way, you are required to get a conveyance or a lease of the property in favor of the society or the association of the members. Then it says that till the time the handing over process is completed, the promoter should maintain the essential services for the benefit of the allottees. Then it says the promoter should pay all outgoings until he transfers the physical possession of the real estate project to allottee or the association of allottees, which means that previously the situation which were being seen or felt by people, wherein the developer has just walked out of the project without giving the OC, or he's not maintaining the premises, or he's not collecting money from the members to take care of the common expenses. All the situations have been taken care of by RERA by imposing this responsibility on the promoter that look, you have to make sure that you complete the project and do a smooth handing over to the for the benefit of the association in such a fashion that they get all the legal and beneficial rights of the project in time to come. Now, here we have seen various promoters just walking out of the project wherein there is no association being formed, no society being formed, or no company or apartment scheme is formulated, and the authorities don't know what to do, how to go about it. Here, the law says, Section 11 of the RERA says that in case of a single building, the promoter shall submit the application for the formation of the association within 3 months from the date on which 50% of the total number of authorities in such a building or wing have booked the apartments. So the moment you touch 50% booking, within 3 months, you are required to tender an application to form the society. In case there are multiple buildings, then it says the last building, when it is completed, from that day, the counting will start. So here, the law is planning to take care of a situation wherein the project is completed, then the society should be ready for taking over the responsibility of running the maintenance of it and taking over the legal rights of the project. So now the law wants the developer to act in advance so that by the time the project is completed, the promoter is ready with the association of authorities who can be given the charge of the entire project. Going next. Now, section 12, it says, now previously we had this situation wherein your rosy prospectus being given or the beautiful brochures being given by the promoters with a lot of information which never became true, which never came to real life. Those situations are contemplated here to be taken care of. So in that situation, first and foremost, that in case the member or allottee has booked a flat on the basis of an advertisement or prospectus wherein the information given is found to be false or wrong, in that case, the allottee is being cheated by the developer. In that case, the allottee, if he sustains any loss or damage by reason of any incorrect information, then the allottee shall be compensated by the promoter in the manner as provided under this act. Which means that if the allottee is given wrong information by the developer, and because of that, if he suffers a loss, in that case, the allottee has got every right to sue the developer and make sure that his loss is being recovered by way of a compensation by the developer. Secondly, he has got a right to withdraw from the project, and in that case, the developer is liable to return the entire investment along with the interest at such rate as may be prescribed and the compensation in the manner under the Act. Which means that in case because of any false statement, somebody goes ahead and cancels the allotment, in that situation, that allottee will be entitled to get his money back, some interest in the investment, and also some compensation. Going further, we have this situation in a lot of cases. In handling RERA, we find that lots of allottees do not have an agreement to sell. They only have a letter of allotment. So now, to take care of that situation, the law says that a promoter shall not be entitled to accept any money more than 10% unless he goes in for an agreement to sell. So this situation of allottees being 25% or 30% without having any agreement in hand is being taken care of by this provision, section 13, which means that any allottee, the moment he pays more than 10%, is entitled legally to get an agreement to sell in his favor, and the developer is required to go in for registration of the said activity. Then, this is a situation which my friends in Thana or Bhiwandi will immediately relate to, is adherence to sanction plans. Because we have situations in Mofussil areas or even in sometimes in Thana city or Dombivli city, wherein the promoter has not adhered to the sanction plans, but has gone out of the way to construct additional floors or cover parking areas or to cover the common areas. That is not allowed under the law. So now this section will impose a penalty on the promoter in case he doesn't adhere to the plans, which means that now there is a responsibility cast upon the developer to follow and adhere to the plans given by the corporation or the planning authority. Secondly, if you want to make any changes in a flat allotted to an allottee, then the developer is required to go to the allottee and take a specific consent. So your balcony getting extended by a few square feet or your hall living room getting reduced in some square feet. Previously it was chalta hai. Now it doesn't work like that. The developer is bound to adhere to the sanctioned plans. He cannot do anything as per his own whims and fancies. Then we had this situation in the past wherein a promoter who has taken money from you is not visible on site. You had paid money to X person with the presupposition that he is a genuine person, he is a gentleman, he has been delivering his products in time. So on the faith of that fellow's face, you have paid some money. And after a few months, when you go back to the site, you find that the party has changed. The board is changed. The promoter is not the same gentleman. It's somebody else who has come and he is handling the project. So this you had the allottee had no control on who the promoter is going to be. The changes in the promoters, the authority had to accept it. He had no recourse to go back and say, this is not done. I have paid money to X gentleman on the faith that he is a person who delivers. This Y gentleman who is right now sitting, I don't have faith in him. There is no recourse in the prevailing laws for such a authority to go to the authority and file his complaint. Now, under section 15 of RERA, it says the promoter shall not transfer or assign his majority rights and liabilities in respect of a real estate project to a third party without obtaining prior written consent from two-thirds of the allottees, except the promoter, and without the prior written approval of the authority. So there are two conditions laid down here. One is that the developer will have to go to the allottees, get the consent of two-thirds of the allottees. One. Second is that then he has to go to the authority and get a prior written approval. So blanket transfer of a project from A developer to B developer is not allowed. Now that is history. You have to go to the allottees, take the consent of two-thirds of the allottees. Secondly, you have to go to the authority and request them for a prior written approval. Unless you have both, the developer will not be allowed to change the developer. Then, secondly, in case the developer complies with these two things, still such a transfer or assignment shall not affect the allotment or sale of the apartments, plots or building as the case may be in the real estate project made by the erstwhile promoter. So the new promoter, the incumbent, will be under the obligation to perform whatever has been promised by the erstwhile promoter to the allottees, which means the allottees' rights and responsibilities and entitlement in the project remain the same. The new developer cannot take this plea that I have come today, I am changing the plans, I am reducing the area, I am increasing the rate, I am changing the amenities. Nothing of that type is allowed to be done by the new developer. Going further, secondly, now the second provision is very important. The transfer of rights by A developer to B developer will not entitle the new developer to apply for extension in time, which means that if a developer has given the date of 31st of December 2020 as a completion date, by virtue of the transfer of rights, the new developer cannot say that मैं तो अभी आया, I'll take at least a year to complete, and you give me a date of 31st December 2021. No, it is not done. He has to enter into the shoes of the erstwhile developer with all the obligations and responsibilities. So no variation, no change will be allowed to him, which means that by changing a developer, you cannot circumvent the law. You cannot change the transaction between the allottee and the developer. All the pending obligations as per the agreement of sale entered into by the erstwhile promoter with the allottees will stand, and the new person will have to adhere to all those obligations. Okay. Then insurance under section 16, this has not been enforced so far by the law, so it is still only a section 16, but it will be enforced in time to come. Now we come to the financial issue. Now RERA, basically the whole purpose of the law is to inculcate financial discipline in the minds of the developer. This industry had the curse of financial indiscipline by way of diversion of funds and misutilization of funds. We have seen developers buying brand new Mercedes car on the date of opening with the money received from the allottees. The money was supposed to be utilized for the project, but the developer, to show off that he is having a financial stature in the market, goes in for utilization of that money for buying a fancy car. This is history now. Now, under the RERA, there is a financial discipline of 70-30 formula, and it is made mandatory to utilize the funds in the regulated manner only. And all the information about such utilization is required to be disclosed to the monitoring authority. Let us go step further to understand how this discipline is supposed to be performed by the developer. So, section 42(1)(d), most important section in the law. It says that 70% of the amounts realized for the illicit project from the allottees from time to time shall be deposited in a separate account to be maintained in a scheduled bank to cover the cost of construction and the land cost, and shall be used only for that purpose. Let me break this into four statements. First is that 70% of the amounts collected for the project, which means that whatever collection the developer does from the allottees, out of that 70% is earmarked for construction. So he has got access or to play around with only 30%. 70% is committed to be utilized only for the purpose of the construction of the project. Now, what is utilization? It says the money shall be deposited in a separate account to be maintained in a scheduled bank. So the account remains with the developer only. It is not a escrow account. It is not something which RERA is going to manage. No, it is an account to be opened by the developer himself, and then from that account should be with a scheduled bank. So it cannot be with the cooperative bank. It cannot be with the PATPEDI. It cannot be the credit society. It has to be with a scheduled bank. What does it do? That money, it is supposed to cover the cost of construction and the land cost, which means that 70% is to be earmarked for the cost of construction and the land cost, and shall be used only for that purpose. Now, who is going to monitor this? Shall be used for the only that purpose. It will be monitored by the chartered accountant. So there will be a certificate to be issued by a chartered accountant who will monitor whether the utilization is done as per section 42(1)(d) or not. Then it says, provided that the promoter shall withdraw the amounts from the separate account to cover the cost of the project in proportion to the percentage of completion of the project. So as you go on completing the project, accordingly you are allowed to withdraw the money from the separate account. Then it says, provide further that the amounts from the separate account shall be withdrawn by the promoter after it is certified by an engineer, an architect, and a chartered accountant in practice that the withdrawals is in proportion to the percentage of completion of the project. Here now, first time the three professionals who are associated with the project, the engineer, the architect, and the chartered accountant, are put the responsibility of monitoring the movement utilization of the funds, which means 70% of the money collected from the allottees can be utilized by the promoter only after getting the proper certificates from the engineer, the architect, and the chartered. The engineer certificate, architect certificate, and chartered certificate is a must for getting the withdrawals done, which means that now that discretion of the promoter to spend the money the way he likes is gone. 70% comes under the control of the three professionals. Then it says, after doing all this, further, there is one more responsibility. It says, provide also that the promoter shall get his accounts audited within 6 months. Sorry, yeah, within 6 months after the end of every financial year. So the way you have tax audit of income tax, your GST audit, same way you'll be having a RERA audit. And that gentleman is required to verify what has been done by the CA, architect, and engineer in the whole of the year, and then he will verify that by virtue of the audit, and then he will certify that the amounts collected for a particular project have been utilized for the project one. So there is no diversion of funds. And second, and the withdrawals has been in compliance with the proportion to the percentage of completion, which means that you, as you went on completing the project, you utilize the money for that project. So diversion of funds into another project or utilization of the funds for any other purposes, both are being taken care of here by virtue of this provision. So now the developer will have to be in sync with the engineer, the architect, and the chartered accountant by utilizing the money. Plus, he'll be again checked by the auditor whether he has done the things in the right way or not. This is a certificate prescribed in form number 5 for the auditor to certify the accounts, so that he also is liable to RERA for giving the correct information. Okay, so what do you submit to RERA authority for ensuring compliances? First is Form 3, certificate by the chartered accountant. This is to be given by the CA at time of registration of the project and for each and every update. So every time when the promoter wants to withdraw the money, he has to make sure that he has Form 3 with him, which entitles him to withdraw the money as per the working stipulated by the law. So the law gives the working of Form 3. As per that working, the CA will certify what is the amount which is permitted to be withdrawn by the promoter from the account maintained under RERA. After that is done, the withdrawals are permitted. Then Form 5, as I told you earlier, is the audit certificate to be furnished on or before the end of 6 months. So these two things are required to be given by the chartered accountant to the RERA authority. Other things we already know, that we are giving the accounts of the company under company law, IT accounts and tax audit to the IT authorities, GST to the GST authorities. Now, this certificate issued by chartered accountant, because now we are talking about financial discipline. So that is the domain of the chartered accountant. He is supposed to give the information as required by law. So what is the information required? It says the chartered accountant certifying the progress of the registered real estate project for the purpose of withdrawal of amount from the separate account should be a different entity than the chartered accountant who is the statutory auditor, which means for Form 3, the auditor who is doing the audit of the accounts under GST or under income tax cannot be the chartered accountant who is going to issue the Form number 3 certificate. So you get two chartered accountants because the work is overlapping. The CA who issues Form 3 is under the, you can say, examination or verification by the chartered accountant who is the auditor. So the mechanism is overlapping. So the CA who issues Form number 3 is also verified and checked by the auditor whether he is doing the right thing or not. So Form 3 will always make sure that Form 5 will always make sure that Form 3 has been issued correctly. So what is the Form number 3? Let us just run through that. It says CA certificate for registration of a project and subsequent withdrawals of money. So you say cost of the registered project, you give the land cost. The land cost is the first starting point. So land cost, then you give all the details of the land as per the ready reckoner rate, premium payable, TDR acquisition cost, government payments, land premium. So these are the heads which are prescribed under the law. So as a promoter, you will have to instruct your accounts department to compile the information in a format which will match the requirements of RERA. Because otherwise, your tally accounts may not be having these heads which are prescribed under RERA. So to take care of that situation, you will have to rework the grouping of the accounting information so that this information as required under RERA will be made available to the CA handily. The CA should also make it a point that when he certifies the certificate, he should make it a point to take a backup of the entire financial database so that tomorrow that database cannot be tampered or changed subsequently by the developer. So as a promoter, it will be your responsibility. Whatever is being certified for you by the CA remains like that only. You are not supposed to incorporate any changes subsequent to the issue of certificate. So in that case, the certificate issued by the CA may turn out to be a wrong certificate and which may get the CA as well as the developer into difficulties. Now, in Mumbai or in Thane, we have the rehab scheme. So rehab scheme expenditure is normally taken under the head construction cost by us. But under RERA, it says that rehab means a part of the land cost. So it says by virtue of the rehab, you are getting the rights of FSI. So all the costs incurred for rehab will be taken under the head land cost for RERA purposes. So as I told you earlier, you have to make sure that your accounts department is well equipped to handle this, to rearrange the accounting heads, so this information can be captured properly. So which means that you have to take an extra effort to make sure that you are in a position to submit the information as required by RERA for a period of time. Now we come after the land cost, we come to cost of construction. Here, there are the normal things, but there are groupings given to you. So it says actual cost of construction, expenditure for development of a project, excluding cost of construction as per like salaries, consultant fees, site overheads, development works, services, all that which is related to construction will be counted here. So this and the land cost is going to take 70% of the total collection. So here it gives you all the heads required: actual cost of construction, expenditure for development, payment of taxes, sales, fees, charges, premiums, interest to the statutory authority. Last thing very interesting, E, interest payable to financial institutions, scheduled banks, NBFCs or money lenders on construction funding or money is borrowed for construction. So in case you want to claim some expenditure here, you are paying interest to any of these bodies, then you have to make it a point. The onus is on the developer to prove that the funds on which he is claiming interest are utilized by him for the purpose of construction. So if the funds are taken by the promoter and invested into some other land for a future project, that interest cannot be claimed over here. Here, the onus is on the promoter to link the funds with the utilization for this project. So if you utilize the money for this project, then yes, that interest payable to any of these institutions or banks or NBFCs or money lenders will be allowed to you. But in case you cannot match that this loan is for this purpose, the matching is not practically visible. And in case the CA feels that there is no matching, then that interest cannot be claimed here. Now, the end part of the certificate, it says total cost of the project, estimated and actual, proportion of the cost incurred on land cost and construction cost, the total cost. So how much percentage you have incurred, that is captured here. Then it says amount which can be withdrawn from the business account. So this is the again point number 3 repeated. Then it says less amount withdrawn till the date of the certificate, which means that if in point number 4, if the amount, in point number 3, sorry, the amount 3 and 4 together, if the amount suppose is 45 crore rupees spent on the project, and if you have taken so far 30 crore from the designated account, then your entitlement is 45 minus 30, 15 crore rupees. So net amount which can be withdrawn from the designated bank account under this certificate is 15 crore rupees, which means that till the time you withdraw 15 crore rupees, you don't have to go in for a new certificate. So that is the entitlement given to the promoter to withdraw from the designated bank account. This certificate has importance from this perspective that this amount, this certificate entitles to developer to withdraw the money from a designated bank account and utilize the money for the purpose of construction. So this is basically the working which is to be monitored by the promoter in a very efficient manner, because in case he makes a mistake here, he can come into trouble. Secondly, by reading the certificate, anybody can make out what is the financial discipline being performed by the promoter. In case you find here that the amount withdrawn from the designated account is more than the cost incurred on land cost, then there is bad financial management. The promoter is not adhering to the 70-30 formula and he is utilizing the funds for some other purpose, which this certificate will capture that and will highlight this to the authority, in which case there can be repercussions of the authority taking a note of such bad or financial management by the promoter, and in that case the promoter may be imposed penalties or further action by the Mahara authority. Then in case of ongoing projects, there is one more information to be given. This is very interesting. It says, number one, if you see, it says the balance cost to complete the project. Now, so let us take a situation that a project is ongoing, and here the project cost was 100 crore rupees. 65 crore rupees have been incurred by the promoter. So 35 crore rupees is the balance cost to be incurred. That is figure number one. It will be captured in the certificate of the chartered accountant, right? Then it says number two, balance amount of receivables from the sold apartments, which is the debtors, which is the money to be collected by the promoter from various sales that is effected. So CA is required to capture this data from the accounts and certify it for the benefit of the allottees. So here, suppose now the debtors amount is 15 crore rupees. Then 3 is the balance unsold area with the management to be valued at the ASR, that is the ready reckoner rate. Now, when you do this valuation, now if the numbers come like this, that the balance expenditure is 35 CR, the debtors is 15 CR, and if the balance unsold area is 40 CR, which means that the project has got 55 CR to be collected by virtue of receivables and unsold stock, and only 35 CR to be spent. So there is a cushion of 20 crore rupees for the developer to complete the project. It's a very healthy sign. Now, if you take the other way around, if 35 CR is the value of balance expenditure, 15 CR is the debtors, and only 10 CR is the balance amount of unsold stock, which means that to complete 35 CR, you have got only 25 CR with you. It's a very bad situation, which means that the promoter already siphoned off the money in the past, or there is no profitability in the project, and there is no way that the promoter can complete it. So this is an alarming situation. So the bell should start ringing here. Immediately, the moment the certificate is prepared, the chartered accountant should and must sit with the promoter and understand from him whether there is some data which is wrongly being put up, or in reality this is a situation. If that is a situation, then he has to tell the promoter that he has to arrange for the margin to make sure that the difference is made good by the promoter. Now here it says, in case the amount of 4 is greater than 1, which means that if the debtors and the stock is more than the expenditure to be incurred, then you are allowed 70% to be retained and 30% you can use as per discretion. But if it is other way around, if 4 is less than 1, which means that the debtors and stock is less than the balance expenditure, then in that case, the liberty has already been taken by the developer by taking off the money, which means that the entire amount of money which will be collected from the debtors as well as from the future sales should and must be utilized for the purpose of the project. So in those cases, it will be 100% of the amount to be deposited in the bank account. and to be utilized for the purpose of construction. Which means the RERA wants to monitor whether 70% or 100% to make sure that the money is not siphoned off and the money is kept at the right place for the right things. Going further, the annexure A is annexed to that information. The first part is sold inventory, which gives you serial number, flat number, carpet area, unit consideration as per the agreement to sell or letter of allotment, received amount, balance receivable. So here the CA is required to capture whether the document is done or not. If there is only a letter of allotment, still that will be treated as a sale and that data has to be captured. So this certificate does not want the developer to go in for agreement to sell and register it. No, even if he issues a letter of allotment, that becomes a debtor, should be captured here as sold inventory. In case it is unsold inventory, you go to the next level, serial number, flat number, carpet area, and the value. So these two things are to be calculated by the chart accountant. While doing this exercise, the promoter and the CA should sit together, make sure whatever they are submitted to RERA. Now, for example, in case they have proposed a building of 15-story, then all the 15-story flats should be covered either in unsold or in sold stock. You cannot take only 12-story building into consideration when you are registered for 15-story, which means that whatever registration you have done, if you are planning to have 15 floors in the building, this annexure A should cover all the 15 floors, sold in the sold category, unsold in the unsold category. You cannot just take out some of the flats. No, it is not done. Secondly, whether it is approved or not approved is not the criteria here. Whatever you are registered in the project, if you have registered the building of 15-story with only approvals of 8-story structure, still your project is a 15-story. It will give the information for all the 15 floors, not only for 8 floors. Then we come to the certificate issued by Chartered Accountant, which is the form number 5, the statutory audit certificate. Here it says the Chartered Accountant certifying the progress of the project for the purpose of withdrawal. They already explained. Going to explanation number 2. This is very critical for the developer as well as for the CA to issue form number 3. It says if the form 5 issued by the statutory auditor reveals that any certificate issued by the project architect, engineer, or the chartered accountant has false or incorrect information, which means that the auditor is supposed to verify all the certificates issued by the architect, engineer, and chartered accountant during the course of the financial year, and then verify whether the amounts collected for the project have, in case he finds out that the project collection is not utilized for the project, or if he finds out the withdrawals have not been in compliance with the proportion to the percentage of completion. In that case, now the tricky part comes into play. In case such thing happens that the auditor has found out that there is a mischief being played by the architect or the engineer or the chartered accountant, in that case, if that is brought to the notice of the authority, the further explanation says the authority, in addition to taking penal action as contemplated in the Act and the rules, next word is important, shall. It is not may. Authority shall also take up the matter with the concerned regulatory body or the said professionals. For example, if it is a chartered accountant, it will be the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So the MHARERA will take up the matter with the ICAI, and then it says for necessary penal action against them, including dismemberment, which means that one chartered accountant who has issued a wrong form number 3, and if that is highlighted by the statutory auditor that he has played some mischief and gives the remarks, adverse remarks against that CA, then that may result into dismemberment of that gentleman of the chartered accountant by the institute, because the word is shall, not may. So MHARERA will compulsorily take up the matter with the institute, and then the institute also will take up the action against the concerned member. So friends, be very, very careful when you are issuing the certificate. So this is form number 5. Certificate issued wherein it says that he has obtained all the information. That's fine, no issues. Then it says point number 3, I confirm that I have examined the prescribed register books of accounts for the period so and so. Messrs so and so have completed so percentage of the project title so and so. Amounts collected during the year for the project of so and so, and amounts collected till date is so and so, which means that the CA is required to certify the amount collected during the year as well as the cumulative amount. In point number 3, he has to give the amount withdrawn during the year and the cumulative amount. If we just compare these numbers, you can easily make out what is the discipline being followed by the developer. If the amount collected is more than the amount withdrawn for the project, which means that he has siphoned out the money for some other purpose. So this certificate is very critical from that perspective. So you as a promoter, you have to make sure that this adverse situation doesn't come into play. You have to monitor the accounts in such a fashion that this situation you are not required to face in the future. Then point number 4 says, I certify that so and so promoter has utilized the amounts collected for so and so project only for that project. So which means that you have not diverted the funds to some other project, and the withdrawal from the designated bank account of the said project have in accordance with the proportion to the percentage of completion, which means that you have utilized the money from that bank account only for that project and in the same proportion. Then it says, now this is important, the words in the bracket. If not, please specify the amount withdrawn in excess of eligible amount or any other exceptions. So here, if the auditor certifying form number 5 says that this promoter has not followed the discipline and the amount withdrawn is in excess of the eligible amount, then that will mean that the promoter has not followed the discipline under RERA, and then the chartered accountant who issued form number 3 as well as the promoter will be taken to task by the Mahara authority. We end up with the signature of the chartered accountant, right? So this is what I have to submit to all of you. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Anybody having any questions? Because I was instructed to complete the whole thing within 1 hour. I think I've adhered to the slot given to me. We have got about 20 minutes more to go, wherein we can take up all the questions as may be found by
Sure, sir.
the.
We'll go for question answer. First, I'll cover whatever questions we have received in chat box, and
Right.
then we'll ask personally if anybody would like to ask direct question.
Okay.
So the question, in 30% and 70% RERA account, builder can withdraw the 30% full amount and use those funds for buying land and for construction of other project.
Yes. See, the RERA authority presupposes that 70% is the expenditure to be incurred on the construction part. So, which means the RERA says that 70% is the collection which is required to complete the construction. And the cross check is by virtue of the certificate in form number 3, which you have seen. If the balance expenditure is being financed safely from the debtors and the stock, then 70% the limit imposed on you. Balance 30% is your discretion. You can utilize the money the way you like. So balance 30% can be utilized by the promoter for anything that he wishes to do. There is no compulsion or there is no restriction on him, provided he is in that 70% slot. I'll again repeat, in case the debtors plus stock is less than the balance expenditure, which means that the promoter does not have complete full funds to complete the project, in that case 100% restriction is imposed on him, in which case he cannot take any liberty of utilizing any amount of money for any other purpose. So if you are in 70% slot, go ahead, 30% you can utilize the way you like.
Okay. Will please raise your hand. All the whomsoever participant would like to ask a question to Sunil ji, please raise your hand so we can unmute you. Yes, Adil ji, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
So thank you for the detailed presentation. I just had two questions.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, perfectly audible.
Sir, I'm the landlord of a property,
Right.
and there are 20 tenants which need to be given on alternate accommodation on ownership basis.
Right.
Now there are total 100 flats and 20 for the rehab of tenants and 80 for the sale component.
Correct.
Now you said we need to form AOP after 51% of bookings are done.
Right.
So how do we consider that 51%? That will be including the rehab or out of
No,
80?
no, 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 no. It will be out of 80, 50% of the sale component, not of the rehab component.
Okay, of the
See,
sale component.
this is an anomaly in the law. Actually, this was the issue which was discussed with the then Chief Minister of Maharashtra in one of the sessions. Then Prabhu sir also was there. He was addressing the conference. We had raised the issue that RERA does not take into consideration the rehab portion and does not give any sort of a support or any sort of a protection to the rehab component or the SRA component. So the tenants, erstwhile tenants or the erstwhile society members or the SRA people do not get any protection under it. So at that time, we were promised by the then Chief Minister that yes, this will be taken up by the government at the appropriate level, and will make the necessary changes in the law so that the protection is granted to the rehab portion also. If that happens, then yes, there will be a change or modification in the law, in which case those 20 also will be added to 80, and then that number may go to 50% of 100. But at right now, as the law stands, it is only out of the telecom.
Okay, sir. And one more question, sir. Once the project is completed and the OC is obtained, then do we need to close the project in RERA or that project goes on
Yeah,
as it?
there is a provision wherein the architect is required to issue a certificate in form number 4, which is the form prescribed under the law, wherein he says that yes, I am the architect of so and so project. I have obtained the occupancy certificate from the competent authority, and now the project stands closed. With that, the project will be closed by the RERA authority and will be out of the RERA provision. So which means that unless you comply with the entire law of RERA, you cannot come out of that. Getting the OC and getting the conveyance done are the last two formalities. You complete them and then the project comes out of RERA. Till that time, it is under RERA all the time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So there's one more question from a participant. If the builder avoids forming association in an unregistered project, which sought to have been registered, can he be compelled to do so through RERA code? If he is absconding, can authorities form association on their own and ask for removal of builder?
Yeah, there are multiple questions in the same question. I'll take them one by one. See, first and foremost, if in case the project where you have booked the flat or the apartment, if it is not registered under RERA, then first and foremost, you have to file a complaint. It's termed as a source complaint. So that complaint will have to be filed by the authority to RERA authority, and in that he has to request that the project be registered under RERA. Because unless the project is registered, RERA does not get jurisdiction on the project. The first step is to compel the developer to register the project. In that case, what happens is that the RERA authority shall issue a notice to the developer and ask him to register the project by passing the order. So in that case, the developer will have to comply with the regulations of RERA and going for the registration. If it does it, fine. If it doesn't do it for some reason, then there are penalties to be imposed by RERA. They can make sure that the project is immediately put to a grinding halt and the builder is deprived of all his rights and responsibilities. Secondly, in Maharashtra, the law is this that any developer wanting to sell any flat or an apartment or an office, while going for registration of the agreement with the sub-register of assurances, is required to produce a valid RERA registration certificate. So in case he has played mischief by not registering himself under RERA, then he'll get stuck when he goes for the sale. So when he goes for sale and goes for registration of the document, the concerned authority, the registrar of assurances, is not allowed to accept the registration of the same agreement. So here the project will get immediately stopped. Now, in case the registration is taken and the builder is absconding, therein the law says that in such a situation, if the builder is unable to complete the project for whatever reasons, then in that case, the allottees are entitled to form an association and approach the RERA authority to take over the project, which means with all the rights and responsibilities of the promoter will be handed over to the association, and they can take up the project and complete the project in their own interest. So to circumvent this situation that the developer is behind bars, was absconding, not responding, those situations, you collectively can form an association of allottees and approach the authority that we want to take over this project. Please allow us to recognize our association and give pass a suitable order, allowing us to take over the project and complete it. Therein, you will get the right to operate the bank account, as well as the authority will confer upon you the right of the balance unsold area also, which means that practically you enter into the shoes of the promoter and discharge all the obligations of the promoter. Now, in case there are multiple litigations going on against the promoter, wherein you are not a party to that, you have booked only a flat, then you have to carve out the project. We term it as carving out the project, which means that you only take care of the responsibilities towards that project only and nothing beyond that. So, in case there is a fraud committed by the promoter, which is being investigated by ED or EOW or by income tax, or the matter is in CLT, in that case, you have to follow the procedure of the law to carve out the project and make the allottees safe. RERA is the right forum which will give you this opportunity to carve out such a stalled project and enable the allottees to complete the project. So you have to read the law very carefully. There are provisions in the law which allow you to do that. The promoters will have to be very, very careful that they do not play with fire, because in such a lapse on their part, there can be a possibility of the associate taking on the project, in which case all the investment done by the promoter may get nullified by a one wrong step by the promoter. So the promoters should make it a point to understand the RERA law very carefully and play within the four corners of the law and do not tamper with the law, because in this law, the penalties imposable are percentage of the cost of the project, which means that for a small default also, you may be liable to pay 1% or 5% or 10% of the total cost of the project. So the cost of project 100 crore rupees, your penalty may be 5 crore rupees tomorrow for a lapse of very small magnitude. So beware of this. This law is a, you can say, a draconian law from that perspective, where it can impose huge penalties on the developer. We have seen this in the case of Piramal. 50 lakh rupees were imposed on a developer of his the Piramal stature by the RERA authority, and it was recovered for a small lapse of not showing the proper Mahara number and the Mahara website in the advertisement. So this sort of a lapse can also result into such a big penalty. So my friends of MCHI, make it a point to sit with your consultant, understand the law very carefully, and be within the law. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, next question that I'll be asking from my side. Sir,
Yeah.
suppose a developer has started the project before RERA came into force,
Yeah.
and that time he collected the money more than 10% from the buyers.
Correct.
Okay, but he didn't go for the sale agreement. Instead of that,
Correct.
he signed an MOU with the buyers.
Right.
So what is and still today there is no light of getting considered getting complete. So what is the safeguard for buyers in this thing?
See, it is like this. The project which is ongoing on 1st of May 2017, they made a lot of hue and cry, the promoter, saying that we have done the transaction prior to RERA coming into force. We never knew what is the law going to come. So in case we are defaulted at that point in time, prior to RERA being enforced, how can you penalize us for that? The law considered, yes, this is right. This is a landmark judgment of Neil Kamal, where all these issues were discussed threadbare, and everything was being challenged by the developer fraternity that this is a bad law, this is unconstitutional, this is retrospective in nature, so we cannot have a law which is retrospective. All these aspects were studied by the High Court, and the Honorable Bombay High Court said, no, the law is properly drafted, it is prospective in nature, but all the old transactions which are violatory of the law should be regularized by the promoter immediately after the law is implemented. So in your case, in case you have not gone for the agreement before RERA, but after RERA coming to force, the section says the moment you touch 10%, you should go for the agreement. So as of that date, as of date of implementation of law, in case you have taken more than 10%, law imposes a responsibility on the developer to go for the agreement for sale to meet. That can be termed as a MOU. You can term it as whatever you want to, but there should be a valid document which is legally giving the rights to the authority of getting a flat. So agreement to sell, sale deed, confirmation deed, undertaking, whatever you can say. But ultimately, if that is covering this aspect of sale by the developer to the authority, that has to be executed between the two parties and to be registered also. So you cannot take this plea that I did the transaction prior to RERA, so I'm not liable under RERA. No, it's not done. You are liable under RERA. So all the previous transactions also will have to suffice and comply with the test of RERA and make sure that you are within the law. You can't escape the law by taking this plea that I did it before the law came into force. No, law is made prospective, but all the pending transactions are also covered under the law.
And if the developer doesn't agree to go for sale agreement and for to register document, can buyer go to Maharera to file a complaint?
Yeah, you file a complaint enforcing the developer to go for the agreement to sell. So if you put that condition that I want to get my agreement to sell registered, the developer is not cooperating with me, so please help me out. You file a complaint, it's an online complaint to be filed by you. You file the complaint and get an order from RERA. RERA will instruct the developer to complete the process of registration at the earliest. And it is a very small period activity. Within a max 3 months time, you will get the order. Not a big deal.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir. Any other participant who would like to go for next question? Please raise your hand. So, Adil sir, you would like to ask one more question?
Yes, one more question, please.
Yeah, please go on.
Go ahead.
Sir, if the developer has handed over possession before RERA and the building is completed, but OC is not taken, suppose he handed over the possession to all the members, say around 2012 or 2014, do the
Right.
members get some relief under RERA then now?
No, there is an exemption granted here. In case the developer has performed all his obligations prior to RERA coming into force, but he has not obtained the OC, then the recourse is for the authorities to approach the competent authority to get the OC done. So that doesn't require a registration under RERA. That situation of people having completed the projects long back, 2011, 12, 13, 14, they are not required to go back to RERA authority for registration. But in case the developer has got some interest remaining in the project, for example, he has to construct 2 more floors on that, or he has to comply with some construction obligation, then the project remains as an ongoing project, and then in that case, registration is compulsory. So in those projects, like you are referring to those projects wherein the project already completed, people have started staying there, but OC is not obtained.
Right.
Those projects you cannot come under RERA. You have to go to the concerned municipal authority, the competent authority, and going for the OC there. There are two ways of doing it. One is the OC through the developer, or one is the deemed OC. When you say I have completed all the obligations, please issue me the occupancy certificate to me. The society can apply for that and get it done. It is slightly tricky, but it can be got done. But in case you have made some changes in the layout which are not as per the sanctioned plans, then the authority will say, first get everything rectified, make it as per the sanctioned plans, and then and only then will give you the OC. Because invariably in Mumbai or in Thana or other cities also, there is a trend that the developer says, wait, I'll give you possession, उसके बाद में जो करना है वो करो. So then the authorities go out of the way to remove some walls here and there, enclose the balconies, all that nonsense happens. If that has happened, then the authority, competent authority, which is the corporation or whatever the case may be, they will not issue the OC to you unless you rectify those wrongdoings by the authorities. So that is the reason that RERA says that the developer should get the construction as per the sanctioned plans and obtain the OC. So that liberty or the disadvantage or the wrongdoings by the allottees are supposed to be restricted. So the RERA law says neither the allottee nor the developer should play any mischief. The building should be as per the sanctioned plans, and then the developer should obtain the OC. So which means that those cases which happened in the past, wherein nothing, no tampering has been done, no structure change has been done, those cases, the allottees can approach the corporation for getting the OC, and they will get the OC. RERA is not a forum for them. In case the developer comes back to the society, says, I want to construct 2 more floors, then for the addition 2 floors, he has to go to RERA, but that is a part of sale. Therein, all the RERA provision will come to play. We have to complete the registration formalities and get the OC subsequent to the completion of the project. In that case, it will be an ongoing project, not a completed project.
And sir, what if he has some 1 or 2 units pending for sale, and now he wants to sell that 1 or 2 units? So then again, he has to be registered.
If you already obtain OC, is comfortable. If
No,
you
it's
not
not.
obtain OC, then in that case, the registration authority is supposed to ask him, how come you don't have a RERA registration certificate? You don't have a completion certificate. You should be having one of the 2 things, either a completion certificate or a RERA certificate. If you don't have both, then the authority is not supposed to register the document. In that case, if the developer has got some units which are unsold, he won't sell them right now, then he'll be stuck with those units, because ideally, if the law is interpreted properly, the registering authority should not allow the registration. But there is a big but here. It is managed at that level. It is out of context, but still it is managed, and the developer gets it done the way he wants it. So law is just maybe circumvented for this purpose. So law says unless you have got OC or you have got RERA certificate, registration will not. But practically there are exceptions which happen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Kalpesh ji, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sir, good evening. My question is, I had booked a flat with a developer, and then after some payment, I could not pay further payment. And then I asked them to cancel. He cancelled with certain cancellation charges and paid me certain amount. And my sum amount is still balanced since last 8-10 months. And the project is under construction, registered under RERA of a reputed developer. How should I take action to receive my balance money, and is it covered under RERA?
See, it is like this. The RERA says that we will not rewrite any contracts between the allottee and the developer. So when you purchase the flat, when you book the flat, if you have signed the application form or signed any document which says that yes, in case you cancel the flat, the developer has got a right to forfeit the money. If you yourself have given the right of forfeiture or cancellation or compensation to the developer, then he is within his rights to impose that on you. For example, if you say, okay, in case of cancellation, 15% of the agreement value shall be deducted. Okay, so the agreement value is 1 crore rupees. You have paid 28 lakh rupees so far. So the developer is within the law to say 15% I'm going to deduct and pay you only 13 lakh rupees. So now the 15 lakh rupees is actually a very high amount of money is being charged by the developer to you. So there have been instances when the authority has said, this is wrong, this is improper, this is unfair to the authority, and some cases the amounts have been reduced, or in some cases the amounts have not been allowed to be deducted. There was a judgment 2 days back from the appellate tribunal. It said that this has to be reconsidered by the authority to make sure that the authorities are not unnecessarily penalized. Now, taking your case, the amount of money you paid is 28 lakh rupees. 15% clause is there in the agreement. So 15%, the developer is putting his finger on that clause and saying, I will refund only 13 lakhs. If out of 13 lakh rupees, he has paid only 8 lakhs to you and 5 lakh is still remaining, then for that 5 lakhs, you have every right to go to RERA and claim 5 lakh rupees. One. Secondly, for the 15 lakh rupees, if you are aggrieved, if you are with the right consultant, he can make sure that 15 lakh also is put out and you may get some part of the money also back. That is a matter of a dispute, or you can say it is not a confirmed situation under law, but yes, you can show the facts to a competent person and find a way out wherein that money also partially can be reclaimed by you. I'm not committing, but yes, it is a possibility. This can be tried out by a competent advocate or a chartered. As far as
And
the
what,
balance amount of money out of 30 lakh is concerned, yes, it is your right, and you can file a complaint with IRERA and get the money back without any trouble. Yeah.
what is the time frame in which you can get the refund?
No time frame. Hello. The time frame under law is 60 days for disposing the matter at the authority level as well as the appellate level. But practically, prior to COVID, that period was 6 months. Post COVID, that period will be almost 9 months to 1 year. Yeah, you can't help it because COVID, there is a lot of backlog pending right now with the authority. So period will be about 9 to 10.
And can I get that money with interest because he has delayed that time?
It will depend whether
Hello?
your right came into force on that day or not. If there is a valid argument by you which can be substantiated by the documents, yes, then for the delay, you have got every right to claim interest at the rate prescribed by RERA. You get it.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. You have been very kind enough to focus everything.
Sir, there's one more question from a participant. If the project is already RERA registered, can I registered in phase wise after RERA registration? Is it possible in SRA project?
Yeah, I tell you, RERA doesn't stipulate how you want to register. You can register, for example, suppose you have got a building, there are 4 wings in that building. One is for the SRA component, three wings are for the cell component, right? You can register the 3 wings independently, wing 1, 2, and 3. The RERA does not say that you should register all the units together, but there can be a phase-wise program. So law allows you to register phase-wise also. So phase registration is permitted. Even in SRA, what happens that the FSI also get generated over a period of time. As you go on complying with the SRA component, you start getting the FSI generated. So a developer can register phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 independently and submit the accounts accordingly. Only hassle is that there is additional effort required by the professionals to carve out the certificates, to apportion the expenditure in phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Additional expenditure is involved to some extent, but still advisable to go in for phase-wise program for 2 reasons. One, that the time schedule can be adhered to because phase-wise program, the time schedule can be easily managed. And secondly, the penalties which are imposed in case of non-compliance are restricted to that phase only. For example, if I'm doing 5 phases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the total cost is 500 crores, 100 crores for each of the phases. In case I make a default in phase 5, right? Still, I will liable to pay penalty on the basis of 500 crore rupees for the entire cost of the project. But if I've registered my projects independently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for a lapse of in phase 5, I will be liable to pay penalty on the basis of the cost of the project of phase 5 only. 1, 2, 3, 4 will not be affected by my non-compliance in phase 5. So that is gives me sort of a immunity for the other phases. So in my opinion, as a person who understands RERA, I'll advise that the promoter should register the project in phases. It becomes easily manageable from fund perspective also and from the future contingency of liability of a penalty. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. With that, we have no more question. Also, we are at the end. Sir, with your permission, can you share your email ID to the participants for any further query?
It is there. It is already given there. If you see the last presentation slide, it is there in that. Okay. Mobile number is there. Given over. Yeah, it is there. It is already mentioned that.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
just put in the chat box for all the
Yeah.
participants. Sir, thank you so much for
Let me
such a
thank
enlightening session.
all the members, all the participants for the patient hearing. Thank you so much for arranging this seminar and have a nice evening. Stay home, stay safe.
Thank you so much, sir, for the enlightening session, sir. Yeah. Good night, sir.
Good night.